G'day, guys. Welcome back to Stat Chat Sports. It's just me and BT on the call today. Josh has been bummed down to the twos with Steve. Unlucky boys, but we'll have you back soon. We are continuing our season previews today. We are now looking at the 15th spot in the AFL ladder. We're going with St Kilda. Look, not a lot happened, BT, with the Saints this off-season. It seems to be a bit of a hallmark with their season. I mean, obviously, Ross Lyon, the coaching has just been, the upheaval has been huge. But on the playing side, not a whole lot happening.
It's the exact same what's happened the last few seasons or so. The list has not changed at all. If anything, it's gotten worse because of age of some of these players who are still in this best 22. You're likes of Jack Billings and your Seb Ross type players. And then on top of that, you had the injury of Max King doing his shoulder, which is still to be confirmed on how long he's going to be out for. So that's obviously a huge loss for him in the off season. But yeah, the big news was Ross the Boss coming back to Saints and the sacking of Brett Ratton. It'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Obviously, none of us really seem to rate the Saints this year. I think you and Josh had, I think you had them 13th possibly. Well, me and Steve had them 16th, so we definitely don't rate them. But do you think we're going to see a bit of a changing? Obviously, Ross has been known to be a little bit more defensive with the way he sets up teams. Do you think they're going to go down that path, or do you reckon we're going to see a big change under Ross?
I think that's the way they have to, because they don't have these star quality players in this lineup. Outside of your Jack Steele and obviously your Max King or Jack Sinclair, they're still not, they're not like game winners. And that's what this team has lacked for quite a long time. Probably since your Brendan Goddard, Lenny Hayes days, Nick D'Alessandro days, I haven't really had these match winner type players. So I think they have to go down this defensive route to push the finals, push the top four, which I don't think they're getting anywhere close to that. I've been optimistic. I think that's the only way. If they're one of the best defensive teams, I can't see them scoring. That's the problem. I think that's the problem.
There's not enough game winners, not enough match winners in that team.
Exactly.
So you've got to start from the back. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
And
going off the back of that. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying it's outside of Max King. They don't have a goal scorer. And now that he's out for the first probably half or so of the season, at least, I just don't know where they're going to get these goals from.
If Scoops gets his way, old Tim Embry might have to lead the way, and we maybe might get the elusive All Australian that the Scoops really wanted him to get, but I don't really see that happening because, I tend to agree. Saints are going to be pretty average this year. When you don't change, the coach is fine. I mean, changing the coach is fine, but when you don't change the personnel were never there anyway. So Brett Ratton didn't do a bad job. I can't see what Ross Lyon is going to do completely different to change the Saints anyway. The off-season storyline, I think we've already touched on it, is Ross Lyon. I mean, what he did with the Saints was huge back in the day, but that was a much better team. We're looking, I think it's pretty hard to draw parallels with Ross Lyon. I think it was 2011. Was it 2010, 2011 they made the grand final?
Yeah, around there, 2010, 2011, yeah.
I mean, we're talking Nick Rewalt, we're talking Justin Koshitsky, we're talking Dal Santo, we're talking Stephen Milne. That was a stacked team. This is different this time around. If there's anyone in this team that is probably going to lead them, I mean, I could pick one off my head. For an All-Australian chance, who do you see possibly grabbing the limelight and taking themselves into the All-Australian team?
So there's probably three you could probably choose from. You got Jack Sinclair, who was All-Australian last year, had a phenomenal year. And I think he's going to continue that way. He even started getting tagged in a few games. He was playing that well. You got obviously Jack Steele as well. Quality player. I think it's a bit overrated. Personally, I don't see.
That's a call. That's a big call.
I think it's just it's hard to rate these players because I always rate these players on your compare him to like your Dustin Martin, as much as I don't like Fife in his prime. These types of players, and a Jack Steele's nowhere near
big-bodied,
these.
dominant midfielders.
Yeah, and Jack Steele's nowhere near these guys, skill level wise or anything. He's a beast. Don't get me wrong. He can find the ball, he can tackle, but skill wise and everything, he's nowhere near. He needs to add goals to his game, personally.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So out of those two could easily make it. But I'm going with Rowan Marshall. I think if he plays that solo ruck role, he's absolutely dominant around the ground. And he could easily, if he's playing the whole season as a solo ruck, or the main ruck at least, he could easily be the number one All-Australian ruck, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think he's got that prototypical kind of build. He's mobile, he's strong. But yeah, it's his endurance. I mean, he just runs up and down the ground.
Yeah,
for a big man, you don't see that. And I mean, he can kick goals when he goes forward too.
Exactly. He's just an extra midfielder who's just a big, huge body as well. He's equivalent to what Brodie Groney was when he made the All-Australian type player. Exact types. So I can easily, I would not be surprised at all. If I was to pick the All-Australian ruckman before the season even started, it would probably be him.
Yeah. Yeah, him or Tim English, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it could be either of those two. I think how the roles are going to play between those two, it's, out of them at this stage, I reckon.
Yeah. So obviously we've got our All-Australian chances. This, like we've just mentioned, this list hasn't really seen some proper new talent come through, some real, up and coming talent. But if one player to break out of the Saints team, who are you going for?
So we all know, if you follow this channel, I'm not a huge fan of this Saints team at all. But there's this...
No way.
No way. No, I don't think anyone's noticed that. There's this one player who I'm actually a real fan of. And this is a player who I've watched quite a bit. With the draft stars over here, he's a good draft stars player, especially late in the season last year. Marcus Winhagen.
Yes. Yeah.
He won me a ticket into that event there. He did. He got a tackle with 20 seconds left and won me by 1 point. So I had to put him in this. He's he only averaged 11 disposals or so last year. Numbers are very low. But I think it was maybe the last month, 6 weeks, he went into a tagging role. And he kept Tim Kelly, he from memory, kept Tim Kelly to 4 or 6 disposals or so. Some
I remember
very
that.
low. Yeah. And then after that, he just played these tagging roles. And I can see him playing this tagging role again, probably for the next few seasons. Like how Jack Steele did at his start of his career. He was a tagger. And he's just going to move into this. He's only 19 years old. But with this Ross Lyon defensive style, I can see him being like a Ryan Crowley type. He's going to be the pest of this competition this season coming up. And every team, he's going to go to the main player every single game.
Yeah, and I mean, tagging's a perfect way to learn your trade. If you can learn off the best mids, learning the trade in the sense of hopefully moving into an on-ball role, tagging's the best way to shadow mids and learn what they do. So, I mean, you would hope he doesn't spend his career as a tagger because he's pretty talented. I do remember that game, the Eagles game, because I went to it and I had Tim Kelly in a multi and it did not come through, obviously. So, I mean, I do remember Windhager pretty well. He wore him like a glove. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Good call there.
Yeah, I rate him highly, and I can see him in 3-4 years. Hopefully he's not at the Saints because I don't want him to be at a shit club like that. Hopefully he moves somewhere else. But I can see him being a good quality player. Like I said, he's only 19 years old or whatever. He's very young.
Saints TV, if you're tuning in, we're sorry, but we're doing it again. It's what happens when you don't do bugger all in the off season. We're gonna hammer you again. But look, obviously we're not talking about the Saints in the best kind of light. Are there many under the pump players?
Well, I had to go with one of my most disliked players in the competition, and that's Bradley Hill. I cannot stand this bloke. I think
isn't this guy under the pump?
I think he's the most overrated player in the competition. He's got an elite kick, and obviously he's got endurance, but there's no spot for him. They keep changing his spot. He's the definition of inconsistent. There's one
Yes.
game where he'll have 30 disposals at 100%, and the next game he'll have 6 disposals and didn't hit a target. I don't know where they're playing him. Some games he plays at halfback. He plays at half forward. He plays on the ball. Who knows where he's playing? He's 29 years old. Like you said, he's on the other side of 25. So
Yeah.
if they want to
It's
start,
a little catchphrase.
yeah, exactly. We're going to use that one quite a lot when these videos coming up.
Yeah.
I can't see him. I'm not saying necessarily he's going to get. He could easily get dropped, but I don't think he will at the start. But I just don't know where they're going to play him, and I don't know how Ross the boss is going to play this team. And if he's known to come into a team and get him straight up to the top. He did it. Obviously, he had, like you said, he had all these star players with St Kilda, and then when he went to Fremantle, we had all these star players as well. Coming to this Saints team, it's not like that. So I don't know if he's going to be trying to rebuild this team. Obviously, it doesn't show that in the off season, but you got to start somewhere. And someone who's 29 years old, obviously getting towards the end, he's obviously still got a few years left, but the type of player he is, he's getting towards the end. He's not a small forward who can play a lot of games or a back pocket who can play a lot of games. He's running type player. So I don't know where they're going to play him and how long he's going to play for.
Did Ross the boss? Did he have Bradley Hill at Freo? I can't remember if the years match up. I don't know if they crossed over at all.
I feel like he did. I
I would
feel
have
like
to fact check that.
Yeah. Let us know because I'm not completely sure on that. But if I was to guess, I would say he did.
I think they may have crossed over at some point. I'm sure they did because they both spent enough years at the club where I'm sure they would have crossed over somewhere. So that might give us a clue as to what his plans are if he's going to use him in that sort of role. So he played predominantly on a wing at Freo, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, he's well utilised there, but like you said, the inconsistencies just mean his good games are few and far between.
Exactly. And there's so many of these like-for-like players in this St Kilda team with a Hunter Clark, Dan McKenzie, Jack Sinclair, and a Brad Hill. They're all the exact type of players. So it's where do you play all these guys? And I think you're going to favour these young... Jack Sinclair, probably their best player in the team at the moment. But these other guys, you're going to favour the younger guys, you would think.
Caulfield. He's going to come back.
Exactly. There's another one. So they're all the same type of player. And if you're going to favour anyone, you would lean towards the younger guys because you want to get games into them.
Yeah. It sounds to me like he's going to have to play a bit of a bit part role this year, which is, I mean, for a guy with his talent, it sucks. But when you can't show it every week, what do you expect?
Exactly. Like I said, definition of inconsistent.
Yeah. So, what do the Saints supporters have to be glad about? What can they look towards this year for and think, and what can they hold on to hope for?
Mate, there's nothing. They've got no chance this year. The only reason they're ranked above like our previous videos in Hawthorn, North, and GWS is they've got a little bit more experience. I reckon their list on paper is probably worse than those other three teams. But I think the experience they have in some of these players will finish them above these other teams. But I don't think by much. I think they're a bottom 4 team and they're not far off a bottom team.
Yeah, I had them 16th and I had them nowhere. Like they were pretty far down. I think I didn't give them much chance at all at getting out. So, I mean, what can Ross do? We need to see. We don't get much of a chance to see them sort of during before the season, so they're not going to have much of a time to really sort of to get a hold of where they're at. But you don't think Ross provides any optimism? You don't think a return to the old ways might give them the inspiration they need?
It all depends on what type of coaching style. If he's going back to how he used to coach, the game's way too quick for that these days. You cannot flood your defense anymore. Then these new stand rules and everything, it's not going to work his old game style. So unless he's adapting and going to try something new, which will be interesting to see because we haven't seen that from Ross Lyon. I can't see them doing anything this season. Maybe that they need to recruit something. That's what they need. Outside of Max King, they need another goal kicker who can kick your 40 to 50 goals type thing. Because you look at like a Carlton with the 2 big forwards there.
Yeah.
Tim Membry, he's a third. He's a third forward who pushes up the ground or goes deep when one of the other guys are off the ground. So they need another good key forward to kick their goals.
Don't tell Scoops that, but yeah, I do agree. Well, there you go. That's St Kilda for 2023 preview. Not the greatest. Saints fans, do you agree? If you don't, let us know. Let us know your feelings. Let us know if we're wrong. If you agree with us, we'd love to hear it. But until then, good on you, BT. We'll be back with another preview pretty soon. We are rolling these previews out every 2 days, so stay tuned and we'll be back with the next one. Cheers.